I meet strangers and I see them move their hips before I see them open their mouth. Walking from like the street from a corner. Oh, my world is colliding. Tata, there are three people here. You could have easily bumped it. And he's like, if I didn't come, there'd be only two people. Like I was more introverted when I was younger. And yeah, when our trials are over, maybe we can hang out. And I'm like, oh.
Hello, Ishna. Welcome to Chuma Conversations.
Hi. Hi, Satya. Thank you for
How are you?
having me.
Yay. How are you doing? Where are you right now?
I'm in Bangalore in my house.
Nice. So we are recording this at 11:30 in the morning.
Mhm.
How has your day looked like so far?
I woke up early in the morning and went to Academy of Strength to train with my few friends and
Mm-hmm.
with my coach. And that's probably the one thing I've stayed consistent with for the last 8 weeks. So
How how do you remain consistent with working out? Because that's like one of the hardest things to
it's
do.
been the first time in my life for this. Which is why it's like a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because like even though I dance and I move and stuff, it's very whenever I feel like I'll do it, and
Mm-hmm.
then for weeks I won't do it. So and exercising has a very specific goal and it's very structured. So I've always gotten bored of it. So I think just having a personal trainer who gives you
Mm-hmm.
absolutely no choice. I make so many excuses. I make excuses every day. I'd be
Uh,
like, you have to come. You have to come. And I'm like, ah. But I think it helps to also get to do it with like a few of like people who are close to me. So
mm-hmm.
then it becomes like a community affair rather than, me
Yeah.
kind of doing it alone.
So there's more accountability as well, right?
There is like I just returned from Kerala,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had like 5 days of not physically going to the gym and I had to do it online,
Mm-hmm.
and I cheated.
But you did it online still?
I did it online. Like I used a pot, like a gamla, to
Uh-huh.
use as my dumbbell replacement or whatever. But I also only did it because he wanted video proof. And he wanted video proof of the entire workout, and not just like, me doing 2 reps and being like, yeah, yeah, I
Right.
did the rest. So,
Okay.
yeah, I was really terrible at hula hooping, and I'm a very slow learner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so and because when I started, there weren't a lot of references for me to like, there weren't a lot of teachers out there, and there
Yeah.
weren't a lot of, say, YouTube videos to learn out of. So I
Mm-hmm.
would watch a video, and then I would download a video on YouTube of someone's performance and watch it in slow mo to like see what she did, because there was no
Okay.
tutorial for it. And so,
Mm.
like, because I tried all permutations and combinations, I have a series of what not to do because I've learned it the hard way. And I think that
Okay.
makes it easier for me to teach it as well
Yeah.
sometimes.
You have one tip I remember, which is when you're having your hoop, pretend like you're in a bus where you're moving and you're moving front and back. And I was like, yes, that makes sense. Like, I remember that so well. And that was very different to how I had done hula hooping earlier, which is put all my strength and move my whole body. And just that one technique helped me like maintain it in the air for so much longer. So
Oh,
great tips
yeah. Thank you.
in
I've
standing
seen
in the
your
bus.
video of you hooping as well. It was really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking more of like the Indian references because no one abroad really struggles with the heavy local train kind of coach feeling. But yes,
Yeah. You're a Malayali and you grew up in Delhi. And I was very curious, did anyone ever tease you for your last name?
all the time. I was bullied. I was called Kutti
Uh-huh.
throughout because Delhi is brutal that way and it's North India. So,
Yeah.
and there aren't like a lot of Kuttis.
Yeah.
It's not like an Iyer or whatever surnames you've heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was. I've actually asked my parents if my surname could be changed because that's the thing,
Uh-huh.
right? Because my cousin, like my cousin has changed her surname, even though her parents' name is something else, or has
Okay.
taken like her father's first name because that's also
Okay.
common. So I was
Right.
like, can I just be called Ishna Vijay? It's like that ain't working out. But then I think I learned to like own it.
Mm.
So that helped. I grew up basically. And it helped that a lot of other people were also teased for their surnames.
Like what?
Like, the Parsis have like the wala, bottle wala,
Yeah.
soda wala.
Uh-huh.
And so there'd be jokes around that. Mine was a little brutal because they would literally go into like, you're a bitch, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I did learn to take it like a champ eventually.
Mm. It's a very sweet name though, like because Kutti, those who are listening to it and don't know Malayalam, like Kutti is like small one,
You
little
know.
one cutie pie, like
Yeah, but I was
so.
also like, it was teased even in the South because they didn't believe that it was my surname. They're like,
Uh-huh.
oh, we just thought like it's just your Instagram name, like you're calling yourself a Kutti.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's not a
So
very common surname, right?
yeah, I remember joined a course where we all
Mm-hmm.
had to like fill out our in the attendance sheet, fill out our full name, and I wrote
Mm-hmm.
my full name, and this girl just kind of peeped into mine, and I was like, what happened? I was like, I was just checking if your surname is actually your surname for proof.
I'm curious though, but if you wanted to, I can't imagine like a Ashna Vijay. Like now your identity is so
Yeah,
much like an Ashna Kutti, right?
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I guess Lola Kuti really popularized it
Oh, did people like ask you if you're related to Lola Kutti?
all the time. I was like, I wish she's so funny. But then I
She's
found
a
out Lola Kutti's name is not actually Lola Kutti, no?
yeah.
Was really heartbroken.
Well, she's great. I think she was one of the first few mainstream depictions of a Malayali persona
Yeah,
who was also really funny. So I was
it was
thinking,
really
yeah,
funny. Yeah,
yeah,
and like just made it really big. I mean, in the north, everybody knew Lola Kutti.
yeah. And she owned that character. Like, although she was like having all those things that people have in mind when you think of a Malayali, but she owned it
Yeah,
so well and was so
yeah,
funny.
yeah,
She really made me feel like, yeah,
yeah. You're also
representation.
like 1/4 Mallu, no?
No, I'm actually full Mallu.
Oh yeah,
Are you also full Mallu?
yeah.
Okay, but I also didn't grow up in Kerala, and
But you managed to learn a lot of languages, and I managed to learn none. That's the big difference between the two of us. You know, I'm going for Tamil classes now
really, how come Tamil though?
because as in, my parents are from the border,
Mm-hmm.
so Palakkad, and my mom's also like I think like a Tam Bram ancestors.
Okay.
So household language is Tamil or like the Palakkad Malayalam, which is
Mm.
Tamil.
Yeah.
And that's why like whenever I'd go to Chennai, I would feel more at home because I understood Tamil
Mm.
more. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'd go to Cochin and feel like a complete outsider.
Uh-huh.
And my parents, because I grew up in the north, they mostly spoke in Hindi or English. And
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents would talk to me in this weird Talayalam. My parents also. And so when I went for the first, like, I joined a class like because of what's her name? Malayalam, the
Elikuti?
Elikutti, yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks to Elikutti, she referred me to like this Muttashi.in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started learning parallel Tamil and Malayalam side to side, like
Okay.
drawing a line in the middle. And that's when I realized that, oh, my parents literally say like Nan, Evade, whatever,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then something, something, and then Ano. And then I'm like, oh, you've really like one by one made it so disastrous for me to
Yeah.
even like differentiate between the two now.
But how are your classes been going? Like, are you able to make conversational Malayalam now?
I'm realizing, and so that's what the Tamil teacher is also telling me that she's barely teaching me Tamil. She's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
taking out the Tamil that's already inside of me. So there are
Okay.
times when like we actually sit down and she's like, okay, put the books away and we're just gonna have a conversation about Alai Payude or whatever film or whatever.
Okay.
Um, and I'm able to like hold a conversation, but then say I went to Cochin right now to spend time with my grandparents, and they're like, "Oh, you're learning Tamil," and I just couldn't utter a word. And whoever else, like even the like grocery shop guy or anybody or
Uh-huh.
friends or with like Nirmal and all of these folks
Mm.
who know Tamil, it just doesn't come out. And so I feel like it's now become more of a psychological thing than a,
Yeah.
so it's that thing of I just need to go past that fear of like sounding like an absolute idiot, because every time I've
Yeah.
tried to speak either of the languages, I've just always, it's come back with like, oh, you can't even speak. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, and like now I'm in a phase where I really want to try, but then I think all my childhood when I've tried and it's just not worked out in my favor, or I've been made to
Mm-hmm.
feel lesser or whatever, that kind of plays in. So sometimes that's why it becomes very helpful for me to just talk with her. And then now I need to find like a safe friend that I can have
Yeah.
who doesn't know how to speak English or Hindi, because then I have no
Right.
choice.
So you like learning new things, right? And
Yeah.
even hula hooping you learned when you were a teenager. You learned it like a true Gen Z youth. You learned it through YouTube. What was it? I mean, we come across a lot of things that interest us online, but what was it about hula hooping that really drew you to study it?
I think it was just so random. Like it's such a random toy. And you do
Uh-huh.
such random things with it. And I liked the randomness of it, because I think this is in, school when you're broken into like this very structured manner of like, okay, you either do
Mm-hmm.
sports, then you play like basketball, tennis, badminton, whatever, or you get into like dance, which is like western or classical or this. And I was just somehow not being able to fit into any. Like I loved sports, I loved
Mm-hmm.
music, I hated dance, so I didn't go into that. But I
Okay.
just as a kid, so I just felt like I wasn't finding my place there or like fitting in or whatever. And then somebody, I think, gifted me a hoop, like they do to kids often.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this hoop, and I tried it and I didn't get it. And I was very bummed that I didn't get it. And
Mm-hmm.
so my mission just became like I just want to be able to spin it. And then I
Yeah.
can put it aside and I don't care so much about this prop at all.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I got it, that feeling is what made me hungry to want to chase it more. Like that
Mm-hmm.
feeling of being able to achieve something that I got all by myself. Like nobody, spoon fed me, nobody um, told me that, oh, you should do this, that's why you'll do this. Because many times you're put into sports, like you should
Yeah.
play sports. Now you're going to be put
Mm-hmm.
into tennis, or you should do that. So it was out of my own will that I chose to do it. And the inconsequentiality, if that's a word, is why I
Uh-huh.
loved it so much. I'm like, I don't have to be good at it, I can suck at it, and it's just that one toy that is absolutely meaningless. And I think
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I somehow fell in love with it, because it didn't come with that whole added pressure of having to be good, added pressure of needing to prove something, added pressure of insecurity because others are better, because nobody else is doing
Yeah.
it. So there is no fear of like comparison, judgment, and it was a really fun hobby to do in the house, because
Mm-hmm.
I used to be home alone really often, and we didn't have like we had a TV only in one of the rooms, and the
Mm-hmm.
maid would always be watching it. I thought he's a boogie ki kyunki saas bhi kabhi bahu hai. And like I just either that was going on, or I
Uh-huh.
could just hula hoop or whatever in the bedroom. And I wasn't a very social person. Like I was more introverted when I was younger. And so for me to go down and play with the other kids, like Stapu or hide and seek or whatever other games
Mm.
we play, would be something I do like once in a week. But at the end, I would like to just come back home and spend time with
Recharge.
myself. And yeah,
Mm.
and this is, I picked up hooping before I was exposed to music. So I didn't have like a guitar or something else to keep me
Okay.
busy. So it was, yeah, it kind of became like my good friend. My best friend was my dog. So it was like my second best friend.
Ah, what was your dog's name?
Jigsaw because he was a Dalmatian, and it was always this, are you
Huh.
black and white or white on black?
The eternal question.
I know. For 15 years, I kept asking people. But yeah, so it was, and it continues to be that for me. So even
Mm-hmm.
now, when it's somehow managed to become a profession, I still look
Yeah.
at it as something where I don't derive my self worth or anything out of it. It's that it's very pure in that sense, and that's why, like, while a lot of other people, of course, associate me with
Yeah.
certain identity of, oh, you're that
Hula
hula
hoop girl.
hooper. It's crazy, like I meet strangers and I see them move their hips before I see them open their mouth. Walking to some from like the street from a corner. Oh, so it's become my identity for other people, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still till date not my identity for myself. I feel like hula hoop is just one of the other things that I do,
Mm-hmm.
and it just happens to be something that I also earn money out of now, but it's not something that holds that pressure. Let's say, for instance, when you were, like, in during education, like we had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pressure to studies. It doesn't feel like that yet.
It's very interesting you say that because, like you said, a lot of people associate hula hooping with you. And I'm sure even after that Sari Flow video went viral, right? There must have been like so much pressure in your head of what do I do next? Like, did you experience that in terms of,
Yeah.
okay, what do I put out next? Because people are expecting this from me. Should I continue doing hula hoop videos? Should I do something else? Like, what was going through your mind?
I felt very pressured. I didn't realize it till a few months passed, because for the first 2 months, I think I was just doing one interview or two, three interviews a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought
Oh.
that, once the once the limelight is gonna go away, once things are gonna slow down and ease out, I'll take time to actually think about what the fuck just happened. But that time didn't happen, and 3 months passed, and I launched Hoop Flow also around the same
Mm-hmm.
time. So that high just kind of continued for like 6, 7 months till I completely dropped, and I realized, wait, I don't even know now if I want to hoop anymore, because for the first time, why I picked it up was just for the purity of it, for the pure love of
Yeah.
it, wasn't with the intention of it turning into a viral thing, me becoming popular or famous because of it. It was just
Mm-hmm.
like a bedroom hobby that I enjoyed keeping, like, as a part of my private life. It's just that I used to
Yeah.
post on Instagram as like a journal, like this is my practice space kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think when that changed, when Sari Flow happened, I started looking at it with all the ways when we look at our work. Of it became a
Yeah.
job for me, that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, brand projects are coming because of hula hooping. That means I need to, like, you get it.
Keep doing it and
Yeah,
keep
I
building up
was
on it.
forced to do it. I was forced to, like, and I was the one who pushed myself. Like, I mean, if nobody was forcing me personally, but I felt
Mm-hmm.
pressured to pressured to teach more, because maybe, like, grow the community more, because if there isn't anyone else teaching, or if there are very
Mm-hmm.
few people teaching, then the least I can do is, play a role in, like, spreading the art form or whatever. So I still
Mm-hmm.
did whatever I could in my capacity, but then I completely dropped, and I went on this whole traveling spree where for like
Yeah.
8, 9 months I just completely stopped hooping altogether, and started doing other things. I started surfing, I started slacklining, highlining,
Mm-hmm.
skateboarding, or just other random things. And yeah, try to, like, find a new purpose in life, because I'm like, okay, if not hula hoop, now what do I do? I've gone back to studies, so I've gone back
Okay.
to psychology, and my actual profession is that of a movement therapy
Mm-hmm.
practitioner. And so I'm going back to studying that, doing expressive art therapy. So now there's going to be more of art therapy, drama therapy, apart from movement and stuff. So yeah, kind of building another purpose around it. And now that I have figured some kind of a fallback plan. If, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, if tomorrow I decide that, okay, goodbye hooping, I have a fallback plan and I'm not completely in the dark. Now that I have that, suddenly hooping has become enjoyable again and I don't feel
That
pressured. And so now
yeah.
I want to continue doing it. So I'm basically not quitting or anything, because that's, I realized, too dramatic. I can't afford to also.
Makes for
Um,
a great headline though. Great clickbait title. I'm quitting hooping.
but it's just, I mean, yeah, I guess that's, and it's natural for everyone to have that love hate relationship with something
Yeah.
they're very passionate about. I mean, just like in a relationship also, you're going to have like ups and downs, and so it's just, we have that. And I think the reason I've had it is also because I've grown with it, like how,
Mm-hmm.
what hooping meant to me when I first started versus what it meant to me, say, during the lockdown, and what it means to me now has obviously evolved, and like my needs from it have changed, and I've just kind of realized what those needs are and stuff.
That's very cool. It's very hard to do, honestly, to take a step back and be like, I'm going to put this on hold because suddenly you're getting all these opportunities because of hooping, right? And everybody has all these expectations from you. And you kind of feel caught in the crossroads of, I'm getting like, should I really do this completely? But I'm so glad you stayed true to yourself and you took that time to I guess distance yourself from it a bit and now you love it again. And I think that comes through when one sees your videos as well. There's a pure joy when you hoop. Like what does it feel like when you're in the midst of a flow? What do you feel?
um I've had good flow days, but I've also had bad flow days. So
Okay.
good days have felt like I don't care about anything else. Like I feel a lot more grateful about life, about just being in the present moment, about feeling privileged that I'm also getting to do this, because not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people get a privilege to have a hobby because they have to spend their entire day making a living, or
Yeah.
so it is a privilege to be able to have like a passion thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a, and yeah, feeling happy about my body, like feeling more comfortable in my skin, not
Mm-hmm.
feeling as self-conscious and stuff, and feeling more confident. And yeah, I think just like it's a mixture of a lot of positive emotions, and I don't realize, like, how time just
Yeah.
flies, and I'm like, oh no, the day ended.
What? Really?
Yeah,
That
but then
you
bad days are just like ugh. Because you've experienced the good days that you just
uh-huh.
kind of expect it to happen every day. Like, when that's why, like, when someone is getting into like this whole hoop journey or a flow art
Mm-hmm.
form per se, or like even like if they want to be a musician and they see like their favorite singer or guitarist, like really killing it, they don't
Mm.
realize how many hours of good days and bad days it took to actually get there. So yeah, to be able to just also welcome all breakthroughs and frustration points and all of that, and how the journey has kind of panned out.
I'm really glad you're talking about it too, because from an outside perspective, it looks like it comes very easy and naturally to you, and you're like having fun all the time. So when I hoop and it doesn't work out, I'm like, oh, I cannot do this. This is not for me at all. But
Yeah.
I think this is encouraging to know that keep at it and you'll have good. Like there are some days the hoop just stays in the air all the time, and you're like, wow. Some days it just drops immediately.
It's very
So now I
rewarding,
get what you
and then
mean.
it's, yeah. Yeah, I also call it like the eureka moment with hooping,
Mm-hmm.
where it's so surprising. Like I've noticed it for so many people that they'll get waist hooping the first time, and it's like a tease that, oh, look, you know how to do it. And then
Yeah.
after that, it just stops happening. Like, now you have to work hard for
Yeah.
it. And it's just
It
every single time for every single person. But also just realizing that, uh, like, to just not compare your journey with somebody else's, because
mm,
that's when it starts to get really difficult. So I took forever, by the way. It took me at least like almost 1.5 months to just do waist hooping. Like I just couldn't get it.
oh
Um,
gosh, okay.
and that's why, like, and then now in my workshops I see people getting it in like the first 10 minutes. Like I'm so confident that they'll get it in their first 10 minutes, because so many other variables come into play, right? Like they have the
Mm-hmm.
right sized hoop because the bigger the hoop, the easier to move. And I, like an idiot, right, with the tiniest possible hoop possible. So just like also understanding that it's not always skill based, but it's like your environment. Like if you're having a tired day, you're fatigued out mentally or physically, you're not going to be able to
Mm-hmm.
perform as well. If you're not, um, yeah, if you're not in a place where you're wearing comfortable clothes or good surface ground, it's not going to happen the
Mm-hmm.
same way. So our environment really stimulates a lot of other things as well.
I like the clarity with which you talk about hooping because you've done this for like more than 10 years now. You've been hooping.
Yeah, it's been a
That's
while.
crazy.
Yeah.
You did your undergrad in psychology and then you went on to do your higher studies in movement therapy. And that seems like a perfect blend of both worlds, like a hobby plus your academic interests. Did you always have this kind of clarity about this is the path that I want to follow?
No, I wanted to do science. But my
Okay.
mom was like, why don't you do psychology? Because it's a growing field. And she's a journalist as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, fine, I'll do psychology. And I didn't enjoy psychology in college as much because it was very theoretical and
Mm-hmm.
it was very ratta. Like, I mean, just how
Hmm.
education system anyway is. But in our final year, we were doing health psychology or positive psychology, where they talk about alternative movement forms. And that's when I discovered that, okay, it's not just talking therapy that exists, but there are other
Mm-hmm.
forms of therapy. And I think for me, that's why psychology was, I loved it as a subject to
Mm-hmm.
just like personally like become to reflect more and introspect and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But to do it professionally, I was always hesitant because I wasn't much of a talker. I wasn't someone who could express through words very well. For me, like body movements, like if I feel bad, I won't say I feel bad. I'm just like whatever. It shows in my body.
Uh-huh.
And so to just start learning that while parallelly, discovering hooping and seeing how much my emotions would fluctuate, and for me to like understand so much from like a good flow day, a bad flow day, at a very
Mm.
surface level conversation. But yeah, it blended in quite beautifully in my third year. And then after that, I took a gap year because I didn't know, I absolutely didn't know what to do with that information.
Right.
Like I have hooping and I have movement stuff and psychology, but I don't know what to do with it. And
Right.
coincidentally, TIS had come out with a course of dance movement therapy.
Okay.
So I decided I'd take a gap year, and then eventually I studied that to see if
Mm-hmm.
there are parallels I can draw. So that's journey is still ongoing though, because I realized after
Mm.
1 year that okay, 1 year wasn't enough. I want to study more.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Are you doing like are you taking up a course with a university now to build up on movement therapy?
Yeah, like no, I moved to expressive art therapy out of curiosity, and that's just like
Mm-hmm.
a course. It's not affiliated with a university. It's one of those, 1 year courses that you can do while doing work and stuff because it
Oh,
happens
nice.
like Friday, Saturday. And yeah, and just I realized like let me dabble a little bit more into other art forms as well because again, I guess for personal reasons, because even if I don't pursue a career just as a therapist or a therapy practitioner, I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed how much of an impact it's had in the way I teach and perform, and just how much clarity I also get in what I'm doing or what I who I want to grow up to be and stuff, right? And so
Mm.
yeah, I'm doing art therapy even though I can't draw to save my life.
Okay.
I have an easel somewhere here.
Oh wow, that's goals right there.
This is literally known to be a fact, like where gear acquisition is the first step of a hobby,
Yeah.
and most people drop off after that. So everyone will
Yeah.
buy the best paint brushes and paints, and then it'll catch dust for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
That has happened to so many people who bought my hoop, and they're like, Ishna, we bought it 2 years ago and we
Mm-hmm.
don't use it.
Yeah, see, mine's still back home in Bangalore.
And I'm like, and that's why, like, I've never till date like being like, oh, how could you? You should practice. 'Cause I'm like, I've been there, man. You take 5 years if you want to. If you pick it up even twice, then your purpose has been met with it.
What was the thought behind setting up your company Hoopflow? Because you founded it 3 years ago. You were 23,
24. Two, yeah, oh,
24.
it's been 3 years.
You were 24 is such a young age to
Yeah.
start your own company. What prompted you to take that step to, okay, let me
It
make
was
this a business?
completely community driven. I feel like I would never have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But I started when I picked up the hoop, there wasn't a community. It was very ginchunki. There were very few people doing it. So I didn't know what having a community felt like. And then during the lockdown is when more people started picking it up. My classes were also getting full. And one of the complaints would keep coming that, Ishna, you have these fancy American hoops. Because at the time I was
Uh-huh.
sponsored by one of these American companies. So they used to keep sending me these beautiful collapsible hoops, which didn't
Yeah.
exist in India because we only had Decathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And I also felt bad because I'm like, oh yeah, wait, I am teaching you guys with decathlon hoops while I'm going like, oh, you can't do this. And I've mentioned it so many times where, like having the right hoop does make a difference. And that's not being snobbish about it. It's just you can
Mm-hmm.
obviously do it with a decathlon. I'm not trying to shit on decathlon, but their hoops suck.
I'm not trying to say they're bad, but they're bad.
As in, I buy everything from Decathlon because it's
Yeah.
cheap and it's you just
Mm.
sometimes buy t-shirts in bulk. But when it comes to like specialization, if someone wants to just waist hoop, then Decathlon's great. But if someone wants to do what I'm doing, then having the right hoop does make a difference. And so,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, it became like a very Ishna, you're always recommending these American brands, but we don't want to pay so much and shipping. Why
Yeah.
don't you just sell them? And I'm like, I'm never gonna sell hoops. What do you think? I'm a shopkeeper. And then, like, cut to 6 months later, because I got so tired of always recommending hoops and then getting the same conversation of
Mm.
price is a thing. And then I thought that here I am, like, trying to build or grow a community, but then how will that happen? Because the average Indian can't pay. And even now, like, our hoops are still more on the expensive side.
Mm-hmm.
But in comparison to, say, America, where you get it for like 4,000 rupees or 5,000
Mm.
rupees, is a steal. And then, so in that sense, it was very intentional. So I got my American hoops melted, and
Okay.
understood like the chemical or whatever, and just seeing like if with different manufacturing units, if this is something that can be produced here. And this was pre Sari Flow when I was working on Hoop Flow, and it was going to be just a shop that, okay, now go buy because like
Mm.
you guys asked for it, now you have to take it. But
Great marketing.
and so yeah, so we were like Sari Flow happened in 2020 September, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought that, and I didn't know this was like sometime in April in 2020. I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. 1 year from now, I'll launch. I think I have like say 7 8 months to just test it out, and then do like a few months of quality check and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So April or May 2021 is when I wanted to launch, but then Sari Flow went and happened. So
Mm-hmm.
then our mailing list, which was a sweet like 200 tight group of people, which is a lot of people. For me, it was
Mm.
200 is like, wow, I've never seen 200 people. It
Uh-huh.
shot up to 8,000 people overnight. All
Okay.
now, like the earlier 200 people were like, yeah, we want hoops, we want hoops. Now 8,000 people were like, yeah, we want hoops.
It's like a big stadium of people shouting, right?
No, yeah. And so we somehow managed to launch a lot sooner in December 2020 itself. And it has its pros and cons as well because a lot of defects went out. And then I had to go on a whole other customer service mission where
Oh
I made
no.
each of them like, hey, you got a defect. Please mail. I'll send you a new hoop back. Please don't put a bad review. But we still managed to get the hoops out, and like majority of the people obviously didn't get defects, and we got good hoops, and it still lasted. But yeah, that was how Hoopflow kind of came into existence, and then everything else also came through popular demand. Ishna, we don't have a community conversation, so we have made a Discord
Mm.
channel for each
Oh,
city.
nice.
Hoopers of Delhi, Bombay, Pune, blah blah blah,
Mm.
Goa, Kolkata, etc. So there are about, I think, 15 cities on that. Um, it's not thriving because I'm not very active on Discord. It's a little hard to use.
You have a lot of things going on. Like, I wonder how do you manage like all of these things?
I had a wonderful team for the first 2 years, and like I owe so much to them, especially
Mm-hmm.
Grace and Nishita.
Mm-hmm.
So they were my first employees, and we kind of built Hoopflow together, and I love
Okay.
them to bits. And yeah, and I think like it ran its course. Like Hoopflow also had its super high phase where imagine those 8,000 hoops were not 8,000 hoops weren't sold, but in that, like a lot of hoops were sold. So it was
Mm-hmm.
a crazy year for us, 2021. 2022 is when we went on like tours and stuff. So we did like a
Yeah.
whole hoop tour. And then now I think it's that typical. I don't know if you've read like a bunch of these startup books, but I am the cliched person of the cliched small business owner
Uh-huh.
where I skyrocketed and now it's reached like that plateaued phase where I'm like, this is the phase where I can close it down and become really small, or I can
Mm-hmm.
like completely scale it or wherever. And I have taken that route of like going slow, taking my time. And so I became leaner. So now Hoopflow is just me. And I have one shop
Okay.
manager to kind of man the shop, and he
Mm-hmm.
kind of dispatches quality check controls and everything else. But we've become a lot leaner. But at the time when Hoopflow was thriving, we were a team of 7 people, which
Wow.
is a lot. And yeah, and it was doing well enough that I could pay salaries to 7 people, so it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, now it's the opposite. But that's also because I think when yeah, I'm still figuring out what to where to go next with it because the more I read and everything, like a lot of Hoopflow survived on me, as in like my
Mm.
face. So if I didn't personally promote them, hoops wouldn't get sold. Or like
Yeah.
classes wouldn't get sold if I say for instance said that, oh, this class is gonna be taught by another hooper and not me. Nobody would come.
Yeah.
So now I
Yeah.
kind of want to work on like if community means, like that tomorrow it's the getting hit by a bus concept. I don't know if you know about it. But
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow if I get hit by a bus and die, is Hooflo gonna die with me?
A very morbid concept, but yeah, I get what you mean. It must be also a lot of pressure to have like an entire business on your shoulders. Like, if you have to constantly do that, plus do your Hoopflow classes, plus create content as well. Like, how do you? I remember in one of the interviews you were talking about how you found it difficult to be post consistently on social media. Is that something you still struggle with?
Absolutely. Because I still don't look at myself as a content creator. For me, like
Mm-hmm.
the first and foremost is me as either a hoop teacher and coach. And then the second would be like an entrepreneur or like, someone who's kind of building this company. And then there's very little time left to do
Yeah.
content, as though, even though like before all of this, I used to love making videos. I used to love editing videos,
Mm-hmm.
making choreographies and stuff. But I know that like if I had to choose between three, I want to be able to prioritize these two. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, somehow like the whole Instagram stuff always gets sidelined, which also breaks my heart because on one hand, of course, like there is that whole thing of yeah, it's so toxic, algorithm doesn't work, da 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 da.
Yeah.
But on the other side, like I have a really nice audience. Like I have a
Yeah.
very power, very sweet, heavily
Very
South
supportive.
Indian. They're just so nice. They're just so
Yeah.
nice. And I get a lot of DMs and I'm not able to like respond to them. I'm not able to reply to all comments. I see
Mm-hmm.
some of like my fellow content creators manage to do lives and have,
Yeah.
engage with them in ways. And like, there'll be other people going like, oh, you're always doing this, yeah. But I'm like, man, like I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to make
Yeah.
time so that I can share with them how grateful I am, because I definitely wouldn't be here without any of them and that support that I get. But yeah, so I want to intentionally figure that out. Like to me,
Mm-hmm.
like content creating is its own skill, which I don't possess right now.
You mentioned that when you look at your priorities, your top is being a hoop flow instructor. And you had, I think when you were still studying, you had an experience of teaching Tihar. jail inmates for
You
six
know,
months.
you really did your research, madam. Well,
What was that experience like?
that was me experimenting with the whole amalgamation of movement therapy and or psychology and
Mm-hmm.
dance and psychology and flow arts or hooping. And we had this because LSR, I went to Lady Shriram College, and they do like a lot of non-profit or working with NGOs, or like the social service sector is very big. So we
Mm-hmm.
could pick. And so this is something that a friend and I had actually pitched for, like, we want to, because there was no scheme like that that lets you work with female inmates at Tihar jail. So
Mm-hmm.
we pitched that, and we'd actually directly reached out to Tihar jail. And so she taught drama,
Mm-hmm.
and I taught hula hooping.
Wow. Okay.
And it was very and I was now when I look back, that was at least like eight 8 years ago, which is
Mm-hmm.
a lot. So I was very different. I was like a kid, enthusiastic kid, just like in awe of like the world there. And also just they they till date are like some of the best students that I had. I think one of the reasons I left is because I actually grew very fond of them. And
Okay.
the thing with Tihar jail is it's very, um, it's like, it's very alternative in the way it functions, as what I've heard of what a jail generally looks like. People,
Mm-hmm.
the women were coming in like normal t-shirt and pants or track pants
Okay.
to my sessions. Most of them are under trial. Most, very few are
Okay.
actually convicted. And yeah, which is when, like, when I go close to them and they're like, yeah, when our trials are over, maybe we can hang out. And I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Why did you say that they were some of your best students?
Because they had nothing else to do in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the form of entertainment, like, I mean, they have their uh, basic, like good behavior kind of things, like cleaning
Mm-hmm.
or helping out in the kitchen, or duties that they all are given. And apart from that, like, they're meant to be kept busy in some form of activity or whatever, and not like just be an idle mind. And a lot of them, because I left behind hoops, a lot of them actually chose to practice. And many times I would come back and
Mm-hmm.
they had created their own moves. They had figured things out. I would show them something but not tell them how it happened, or the breakdown of it, and they would just figure it out. And it's because they actually gave time to it, because of course they had time to give to it,
Right.
but the fact that they chose to do that. And it was my first experience working with someone who has you know come back and inspired me more, because this is back
Mm-hmm.
when I was in Delhi teaching, like, I don't know, rich people who would
Mm-hmm.
feel a little entitled and be like, nahi karna mujhe, or whatever. So
Right.
so coming from there, in comparison, they were just like, and also I guess just the taboo you have, no, of like someone who's in jail is probably a bad
Mm-hmm.
person in that
Yeah.
sense. And it broke a lot of those things for me. Like, a lot of them were in it because they might have murdered their husband as a defense mechanism because
Yeah.
of an abusive relationship or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you're not allowed to know why they're in, so a lot of questions you're not allowed to ask, which
Right.
kind of was very nice, because then nobody, it felt safe in that sense, because you
Mm-hmm.
can have a very clean, fresh start when you're in
Mm-hmm.
that space. But yeah, some of my best students, just because of that, like in terms of like, I would come back feeling inspired. Like, it would take me 2 hours to get inside and 2 hours to come out because of the
Okay.
security check, and it would just be a
Mm-hmm.
1 hour class. So I'd spend 5 hours plus like 2 hours going to the jail and
Right.
return. So it would be a full day affair. But that 1 hour always felt worthwhile, because the time that they actually gave me, like that attention, was just undivided. They were hungry to learn, which is again
Mm-hmm.
something you don't see very often. They didn't have phones on them or anything else to distract them.
Right.
So if they're learning something, they're not making a video कि हाँ देख लेंगे बाद में खुद कर
Right.
लेंगे, but they're actually like engrossed and like learning it in that very moment. So everything felt like it was at the present moment happening right there. That was nice as well.
Did anyone try to reach out to you once they came out of jail and say, "Hey, I'm out. You want to hang out?"
No, no, that didn't happen. I left after, but I spent the longest time. Like my fellow folks had, like my from my college had done it only for about a month, and I ended up
Hmm.
sticking around for 6 months.
Wow, that must have been such a huge difference to them as well, right? Learning a new skill.
Yeah, yeah. It was yeah, I don't know how much you can actually capture and like post about, but these are like open things. But
Mm,
many of them were very happy to be in jail. I'm not speaking for all, like the convicted one of
right.
lifetime who have
Mm.
say been in jail for 20 years, have not seen like, इस रोड पे एक ब्रिज बन गया है, हमें पता भी नहीं था. Or
Oh,
like have missed
okay.
the whole technology. You ask them phone something like phone क्या होता है? Because they missed the whole
Oh.
internet generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but like some are obviously like really sad because they like know that they're in it and that's their life. But some who are say under trial or who are like there for just 5 years or whatever, like
Mm.
हाँ हमने dancing सीखा, knitting सीखा,
Mm-hmm.
Javed Habib hairstyling classes are happening. Everything. There's a
Yeah.
Tihar Idol,
Okay.
like
I think
Indian
it's such
Idol.
a great model, right? When you talk about jail being as a place for rehabilitation, because you need to equip people with skills so that they can
Yeah,
be employable once they come out.
yeah,
And it's not just seen as a punishment, you are a bad person, stay here for now.
yeah.
So I think that's a great model. I
That
hope
is.
they have that in other jails across India as well.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of like these people, like some women from Africa
Mm-hmm.
who have been in jail in Africa as well. And they're like, this
Mm-hmm.
isn't a jail. This is a party. They don't even beat us
Oh,
here. We're having a
oh,
blast. And
okay.
yeah. So,
Very interesting. That's such an interesting experience to have had at such a young age.
yeah,
I
it
wish
was.
that more colleges. I think most colleges, when they talk about like non-profit NGO work, it's just going to an old age home, spending 1 hour, and then coming back. I don't know that we actually feel like we leave an impact on the people we meet. So I hope they have like better training in colleges for this. If you are sending kids out and saying this is mandatory, then structure it a bit better, right? So
Yeah, either
both.
they should have like a model where you get to choose because there are people who want to do work, but then
Hmm.
because it's again like you are doing it either because a college will be like, okay, you need to complete these many hours.
Correct.
So then you're doing
Hmm.
it for the hours and you're not
Hmm.
actually present with whoever you're working with. Like if you're working with children, you'll be like, हाँ,
Hmm.
एक घंटा हो गया, okay, bye.
Yeah.
So there is nothing beyond that, and then you don't get to go deeper into it.
Hmm.
It would be
That's
nice,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope they, you know, overhaul it, make it better for the at
I
least
know.
the generation that is to come.
Yeah.
One thing that a lot of your followers connected with on your profile was your relationship with your grandfather, who everyone ended up calling Tata, just
I
like you.
know, yeah.
What are some of the life lessons that you've learned from him that you want to carry on?
Um, well, I've never seen him angry in my entire life.
Hmm.
Angry or sad or just like annoyed, irritated. Even if, like, because I've seen him, he was a journalist as well.
Okay.
Um, so I've seen him like rush for work or like crises would happen or
Hmm.
anything would happen, fights would happen in the family, this and that. Just always seen him very cool. He's very
Hmm.
cool, like just breezing through everything.
Uh-huh.
And that's something I'm just incapable. I Because I get flustered. So
Okay.
I get flustered so easily. If something is going a little off time, then I'm like, my world is colliding. So I mean, that's one life
Uh,
lesson because I feel like life will be a little less stressful if I'm not constantly, beating myself about getting frustrated.
mhm.
And another thing would just be how he was able to make time for everything. That it was a perfect balance uh, of just showing up to work and being able to finish everything before time, and then still
Mhm.
managing to go for family gatherings or for some kacheri or some concert
Uh-huh.
or whatever, or like like a very like yes man, like Jim Carrey.
Mm.
Just saying yes to everything. The most
Uh-huh.
unnecessary things also he'd say yes to. Like, Tata, why are you going here? Like, they invited me. And I'm like, so so would you say no? And like, why would I say no? It would be a missed opportunity. And I'm like, that's missing out on any like the most. And some because I've gone for some of I've been dragged to some of these things and I've seen it and be like, Tata, there are three people here. You could have easily bunked it. And he's like, if I didn't come, there'd be only two people. It's just like finding, just that level of optimism I just never understood. And I don't know
Mhm.
how. I think I somewhere feel like our grandparents just possess that. Like that
Yeah.
generation just somehow possessed it because of the number of stories that would come after Tata's passing, or like even when he was there, would be like, oh, he reminds me so much of my Tata or Amma. And
Yes.
that, oh, my
Yeah.
Amma used to be so jovial or so
Yeah.
happy. And I'm like, I think it's just that time because I don't know if we know how to have fun. And if we're having fun, then we want to like take a video of it or something. But
Yeah.
I don't know if we know how to have fun in the
Mhm.
same way. And I really want to preserve being able to do that, or being able to witness him do that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, there are obviously a lot more, but these two are like things I can really think of.
Yeah, it was like my grandparents passed away when I was very young. So for me, watching the videos and the stories that you would post, it reminded me of my bond with them. And so I could kind of, in a way, experience that connection. So it was really, really precious. So thank you so much for sharing that with all of us.
Thank you.
In one video you had mentioned about how you had a ritual where you would make him chai
Mm.
every single day. So, what is your special chai recipe?
Oh, it's the adrak chai. Just adrak and like you want the whole process?
Yes, of course. We
I
can
will
try it
short
out.
version.
Yeah.
But in his, I would put little less sugar because he was diabetic,
Mm.
and then he would be like, "Zara our cheating dal." And he was old, and he just I don't know because that generation is also very dramatic because they
Uh-huh.
watch too much TV serials.
Mhm.
Thoda our sugar. I'm like, you're not gonna do this to me. But I boil the water and
Mhm.
I put adrak into it, like a lot of.
You smash it?
I smash it. Like I take the
Okay.
chilka out and I
Mm.
smash a lot of it.
Okay.
Quantity is according to like whatever. I don't know how many.
But you like
Um,
it very gingery.
I like it very gingery. I actually
Mm.
I put some sugar, like brown sugar or whatever first. I
Mm-hmm.
boil that in water and then put the ginger, and I let that slow boil forever, forever. I just
Okay.
let it be. I'm like listening to songs or doing something else.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I put the tea leaves, and don't keep it as long because I don't like it overboiled. And then I put
Mm-hmm.
very little milk. I like it
Okay.
kadak. Um,
Oh.
and yeah, a little bit milk and slow boil everything throughout the process. So sometimes my chai takes at least like 10 minutes. It goes on forever and then it slowly starts coming up and I put it on. But I
Mm.
used to when because my partner is from the mountains and so I spent a
Mm-hmm.
lot of months there. And he's got a tandoor,
Wow.
um, the tandoor
You
which
make
is
tandoor chai?
yeah. And so
Wow.
that
Okay.
is a 15 to 20 minute process because you first fire it up. Like you have to get wood from outside
Uh-huh.
to like, really burn it. You put a bit of kerosene, light it up, and
Uh-huh.
then like it works a lot slower. So that level of slow boiling is like magical. So it's only when I
Oh.
started making chai there that I started recreating it back home. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I do it as slow as I can.
Wow, I've never had tandoor chai before, and I can just like my mouth is salivating thinking of the flavors.
Yeah,
One day.
yeah, yeah. It's
Speaking of your partner, we were all on the internet introduced him to him a little while ago when you posted about him. And what was the decision to post about your partner one taken after a lot of thought? Like, Did it take a lot of thinking? Should I go public with this?
Yeah, because it was more about permission, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been with him for like 5.5 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a musician, and he's a popular musician as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him, he used to always just have a very private life on social media. And
Mm-hmm.
so every time I would post about him earlier, I would never either tag him, or he'd be I'd take a photo of his shadow, or I'd
Yeah.
put him in silhouette, or something or the other. Because I'm just like, I want to acknowledge you in some way, but I'm just like, it's a
Yeah.
secret, like Batman. I don't know.
Mm.
So finally, I think one fine day he's like, you acknowledge like all the people who are close in your life, but you never
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge me. And I'm like, hello. So it was his birthdays when I first time acknowledged him, and I
Mm-hmm.
asked him, "Can I put your face
Mm-hmm.
somewhere?" And he's like, "Sure, just don't make it horrible or whatever." Like, um, and also I think it's just the yeah. So it wasn't like a, but I still keep it private-ish only in the sense of
Yeah.
it's not too in the face
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Oh, yet.
Because I tell him I'm ready to make a band with I'm ready to have like a cover band, which is no
Uh-huh.
pressure and it can be semi average. It doesn't have to be super professional. But I
Uh-huh.
have like now the musical setup for it. There's a
Yeah.
keyboard,
Oh,
there's
yeah. I
guitar.
see soundproofing also.
Yeah, he doesn't, whoops, he doesn't acknowledge there's a ukulele. There is,
Oh, there's
yeah.
everything.
And then there's his electric guitar there.
Oh,
You can't
nice.
see it. So there's a whole like mic sound, whatever system. I'm like, I'm ready, and he's like, no. So yeah, so I mean, let's see.
I like how you had that whole soft launch phase of having a shadow somewhere or like another cup in the picture, but not tagging who it is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like for instance, even I think you'd probably resonate because you have a husband now.
Mm. Oh my
And
God, husband.
when we were following you pre-marriage, no one would have thought you even have like you have a partner, do you have anything? It's
Yeah.
so how did that switch happen for you?
For me, it was okay. Now it's official. Let me make it official because we got engaged. So I was like, okay, now might as well tell everybody because I think because we are from different religious backgrounds, it was a little complicated with the larger society and
Mm,
explaining to people and stuff like that. So
mm,
I didn't want people to come to know through social media, like especially my family and my relatives. So for me, once everyone who I was very close to knew about it, then I was like, cool, let's make this official. So yeah, I think after I posted about him, I lost like 1,000, 2,000 followers.
must
Yeah.
be men who are in love with you.
I was like, okay, bye bye. I still get DMs like, why did you get married? You broke my heart. I'm like, okay,
Yay.
sorry.
Oh shit. Yeah, I
Yes,
guess
but
in that way it's also nice to like then acknowledge them because it kind of eliminates like
yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry to this person who thought that we could get together just because you sent me hi on Instagram. It's a weird space to be in.
I know. But I guess it's also social media makes one
Hmm.
feel very approachable.
Let's go to fan questions.
Oh, this one. Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, fan question for you. Number one, what languages do you know?
Not fair.
Just in general, what languages do you know? Even whatever proficiency it might be at.
Oh, Hindi, English fluently.
Mm-hmm.
Tamil, Malayalam, I can understand.
Mm.
Full
Oh,
stop.
that's nice.
French also I can understand.
Oh, you learned French. You went to Alliance Francaise, is it?
I did, and I did till B1. I was gonna get to
Oh,
B2.
nice.
Yeah, but yeah.
So if you were traveling around in France, would you be able to communicate?
I'd be able to understand and I'll
Oui,
respond.
oui.
Because it's, yeah, I'll have to buck it up. But I might be going to France in April. So ask
Oh,
me the question then again and I might change
nice.
my answer.
Oui, oui.
Ah, wait.
Okay, question number two. What makes you happy?
No. There are too many things. There are too many things. But
Top three things that make you happy.
my cats.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Kaju and Kishmish?
yes. Yes. Uh, sunlight. Like
Ah,
it's very random, but
I feel you that on so I feel that so hard.
when I see a spotlight in my house, I go and
Uh-huh.
just stand under it.
Oh my gosh. How did you manage in Delhi during the winters when it's all dark all the
I would
time?
go out. Like that's why I'm such an outdoorsy person as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just chasing sunlight all the time.
Yeah.
So my house also has a lot of sunlight, and I did rent flat hunting accordingly.
Mm, nice.
Sunlight and food does make me very happy. But
Mama noodles.
oh, oh,
I'm gonna try to find
a
mama
little
noodles here.
superficial, but I am okay being a little superficial.
Okay, the last question. Have you ever thought about writing a book?
I actually have.
Oh, you've written a book?
No, I've thought about,
Okay.
but then I realize it's a lot of hard work. And I also have nothing to say right now. So maybe 20 years from now, when I actually have something to say,
Uh-huh.
maybe.
Nice. Or someone would have already written a memoir about you. With a lot of clickbaity titles.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, I'm saying 20 years as though, like, I don't know that AI has already come around the corners. I wouldn't
It's
even need
okay.
to write a book. I can just, that's so sad. But
No, please write a book. Let's not let AI take over
that's just
everything.
the
That
whole,
would be fun.
yeah, I think it's just the whole, I think in the back of my head, that whole AI dialogue just keeps running
Hmm.
like, oh no, what world are we living in right now?
Yeah. But at least I think because of that, people are all the more looking for physical activities to do and skills to learn.
Yeah.
Um, and it's fun. Like I think what you do is extremely interesting. And because of your page, I came to know about hula hooping and realizing I could do it. And my mom actually loves, like as a kid, she used to hula hoop a lot. So when I got the hoop, she was so excited to do it and she could do it for like a minute.
Oh,
And
yeah?
she's like, yeah, she's like 65, 66 something.
I
And
mean,
she was like, "Dug, dug, dug."
the
It's like,
60 plus year olds are actually the best at because
mm.
they've got no fucks to give. They don't care about how they look. They just
Yeah,
ace it. I would love to
yeah.
see a video of your mom though.
Yeah, I have a very funny video. She won't let me send it. So this time when I go to visit, I'll take a video of her doing it.
Done. But yeah.
Cool, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah,
It's
thank
been, wow, it's
you.
a long conversation.
I feel like
Thank you
now
so
you know a
much.
lot about me and I still don't know much about you.
You
But
can still ask me anytime, no problem.
whenever I'll start my podcast and I'll interview you.
Ah, yes, done.
I'll
That
do it
came out
in
like such a
Tamil.
threat.
I'll do it in Tamil.
சரி நாங்கள் பண்ணலாம்.
Oh, okay. Kannadame. That means the vocab. Okay, anyway. Thank you
Okay,
so
we've
much.
exhausted all our Tamil
I
vocabulary with that
know.
one.
I know.
All right,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much,
so much.
Sasha. And this was Nirmal was right. You asked really nice questions.
Oh, yay, I'm so happy. Thank you for listening to Chuma Conversations. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please hit the follow button so you get notified whenever new episodes are out. I'd also really appreciate it if you could rate this episode on whichever platform you're listening to this on so that this podcast can hopefully reach more people. Thank you so much and have a great week ahead.